Exhausted millionaire returns home to an incredible discovery, his daughter's heartwarming bond. James Parker felt a heaviness settle on his chest as he turned onto the familiar streets of his suburban neighborhood. After years of back-to-back meetings and endless deals in New York City, he had finally cracked. The American dream, once shining bright in his eyes, had dulled into a flickering flame. Each triumph had come at a devastating cost, and now as he drove past the homes that held echoes of laughter and warmth, a bittersweet nostalgia washed over him. Pulling into his driveway, James glanced at the empty house that had once been a vibrant family home. Memories of birthday parties and holiday dinners danced in his mind like shadows. But they were just ghosts of a past he'd neglected, a past overshadowed by greed. His heart ached when he thought of Lily, his 12-year-old daughter. How many milestones had he missed? With the rush of his life in the city behind him, guilt crept in. Could he ever mend the bond he had so carelessly severed? Suddenly, laughter broke through his heavy thoughts. Curious, James stepped out of the car, drawn to the sound from next door. Mr. Thompson, their elderly neighbor, was sitting on the porch, hair as white as the clouds above, playing checkers with Lily. The sight struck him like lightning. There was his daughter, bright-eyed and animated, sharing moments of joy with a man he barely acknowledged. Her laughter was a melody that tugged at his heart, a reminder of the laughter that had once filled his own home. Days turned into weeks, and an uncomfortable ache settled in James's heart. He watched as Lily continued to bond with Mr. Thompson, the old veteran who shared wise stories and played games on sunny afternoons. The friendship they forged was beautiful, yet painful for James to witness. The frustration bubbled within him. He resented himself for allowing greed to win over love. A fierce resolve began to grow, but he didn't know where to start. Yet as he roamed the familiar streets, he noticed the struggles around him. People he used to know were now grappling with bills and financial strain, their laughter fading into whispers of worry. A stark contrast to the life he had escaped, and that unsettling realization deepened his internal battleground. Did they notice his absence? Were they better off without him? His heart raced with confusion. Was wealth worth more than these connections? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then the storm hit. Rain poured down relentlessly, flooding streets and homes alike. As chaos unfolded, panic rippled through the neighborhood. With families scrambling for safety, James felt fire ignite within him. He had a choice to make: quiet luxury or bold action. His eyes locked onto Lily across the yard. The unspoken question echoed louder. Could he bridge this chasm he'd created? Would she welcome him back? Then Mr. Thompson reached out, inviting him to join the effort to help their community. Suddenly, the warmth of compassion enveloped him, pushing aside the chill of ambition. In that moment of clarity, James knew what it meant to come home. The battle within swirled, but as he looked back at Lily's hopeful face, he felt a stirring that told him he would do anything to reclaim the love he had almost lost forever. Would he step up and seize this chance for redemption, or would he choose silence and regret? The rain slowed to a drizzle, but the aftermath left chaos in its wake. James stood at the edge of his yard, heart pounding with determination. He could feel the weight of his past choices pressing down, but now there was a fire inside him, an urgency to make things right. He took a deep breath, shaking off moments of doubt, and stepped toward Lily and Mr. Thompson, who were already organizing the neighborhood cleanup effort. As James approached, Lily turned and her eyes widened in surprise. "Dad!" Her voice rang with a mix of disbelief and hope, and for the first time, James felt as if he might be stepping back into her world. "Hey, sweetheart," he managed, forcing a smile that felt a little shaky. Mr. Thompson glanced up from the stacks of debris. "Glad to see you back in the community, James. We could use the extra hands." There was a warmth in his voice that almost made James blush with embarrassment. "I'm here to help," James said, his own voice cracking slightly. The next few hours blurred together. They lifted heavy branches and cleared away broken fences. With each thrown pile of leaves, James could feel layers of guilt peeling away. With each laugh they shared, he felt the day grow lighter. It was exhausting work, but it felt good to sweat alongside his daughter and their neighbor. The laughter combined with the remnant of tension in the air as it slowly released. "Can we do this again tomorrow?" Lily asked shyly as they wrapped up, her tiny hands covered in dirt but a smile plastered on her face. James's heart soared. "Absolutely. We'll make it a tradition. Clean up days every weekend." "Yeah, we can get the neighbors together." Her excitement was infectious, and soon the thought of coming together as a community became a tapestry woven with possibility. That night, as James lay in bed, exhaustion washed over him, but it was a joyful fatigue, knowing he had taken a step, no, a leap, toward healing the relationship with Lily. He could see glimmers of joy lighting up her eyes once more, yet doubt still loomed over him like a dark cloud. Could he truly keep this promise? Was he ready to stop living in the shadows of his own ambitions? The next morning, James awoke to find Lily at the kitchen table, handling invitations for neighbors to join them for Saturday's event. "Dad, I've printed these out," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm radiating through the room. James felt a flush of pride swell in his chest. "You did this all by yourself?" "Yep, and I wrote a little note telling everyone how great Mr. Thompson is. He's my best buddy." She smiled brightly, but there was also a hint of something else he couldn't quite identify. James hesitated for a moment, wondering how to respond. The notion that he had fallen to the background while Mr. Thompson stepped in as an influential figure in her life tugged at his heart. But he also felt something new, a determination to not just be a father, but to be a part of her life actively, in ways she would cherish. "Lily, can I help you deliver these?" "Really?" Her eyes sparkled, and he was no longer focused on the feeling of inadequacy, but rather on this moment of reconnection. "Yes, I have a lot to make up for." They set off together, greeted by familiar faces along the way, some shocked to see James back, while others welcomed him warmly with open arms. As they knocked on doors, sharing laughter and light-hearted banter, an idea bloomed in his mind. If they could unite the town, maybe they could create a change far greater than just beautifying their neighborhood. But just as inspiration filled his heart and plans began to unfold, a distant siren howled in the background, hauntingly familiar. Little did he know that this unexpected turn would once again challenge everything he had been building back toward, his relationship with Lily and his path of redemption. Would this newfound connection withstand another storm, or would it fracture under pressure once again? The siren's wail echoed through the air, dragging James back to memories he desperately wanted to forget. He exchanged a quick glance with Lily, whose bright smile faltered for just a moment. "What's that?" she asked, a shadow of concern creeping into her voice. James took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Just some noise from the firehouse, I'm sure. Let's keep going." He forced a smile, hoping to ease her anxiety, even as his stomach knotted up. But a small voice in his head whispered that whatever was happening might be more urgent than he realized. As they moved to the next house, a familiar face emerged from behind the door. Mrs. Jacobs, a retired teacher who had always had a soft spot for Lily. "James, Lily! So wonderful to see you both." Her warm embrace enveloped them, momentarily dispelling the lingering tension. "What have you two been up to?" "Oh, just some neighborhood cleanup," James replied, his chest swelling with pride at how easily the conversation flowed. "We're trying to bring everyone together again." "That's fantastic," she beamed, but then her eyes flickered with concern. "I hope you both are being careful. There's been a lot of talk around town. Something's not quite right with the old millstone factory site." James's heart raced. Millstone was notorious in the town, not just for its dark history, but also because it had been a source of conflict. "What do you mean?" he asked carefully, trying to mask the rising worry. "Just a few strange occurrences, lights flickering, odd sounds. Even some claimed to see shadows moving through the windows." Mrs. Jacobs shook her head. "Not to mention the fire department has been out there investigating more than once." Lily's eyes widened, caught between fascination and fear. That's scary, right, Dad? Yeah, sweetheart. James leaned closer to her, tucking a stray hair behind her ear. But it could just be kids messing around. You know how things get. However, as they collected invitations, James couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that maybe there was more to it. What if the siren was connected to whatever was happening at Millstone? A hint of dread visited him, but he pushed it aside, determined not to let fear overshadow the momentum he had with his daughter. By the time they returned home, the sky began to darken slightly, clouds rolling in ominously. "Let's finish these deliveries before the rain comes back," James said, forcing optimism through the heaviness in the air. As they did, the siren sounded again, louder and more insistent. It felt like a warning in his bones, and Lily noticed. "Dad, do we have to go by Millstone?" she asked, a slight tremor in her voice. James paused, soul searching for an answer. "If we can avoid it, we will." They turned toward their last stop, but the factory loomed in the distance, almost mocking them. An irritable breeze whipped through, and instinct drove him to protect his daughter. "Stay close to me, okay?" he whispered. "Okay," she replied, the hint of reluctance evident in her voice. They continued, but as they reached the last house, James was struck by an alarming vision of shadows darting against the backdrop of the old factory. A sense of urgency coursed through him. That's when the thought struck hard. Should he confront this threat, no matter what it might mean for their newfound connection? Or should he keep running from the past and let others deal with it? His heart raced, torn between the fear of the unknown and the need to shield Lily from whatever darkness may lie ahead. The moment hung in the air like thick fog, waiting to provide the answer. Decision time had arrived, and he knew it could change everything. What path would he choose? Would he risk it all to uncover the truth? James stood at the edge of the last house on their route, breath hitching in his throat. The factory shadows danced again, almost like a silent plea, drawing him closer while simultaneously holding him back. He felt the weight of fear pressing down against his chest, the kind of fear that slams the door closed on a person's heart. "Dad," Lily's voice broke through, sweet and soft, laced with worry. He looked down at her, the light in her eyes dimming slightly as uncertainty crept into that bright spirit. He couldn't stand the thought of putting her through this. "Let's walk the long way home," he said, attempting to maintain an upbeat tone that didn't quite reach his own heart. As they turned away, the booming siren filled the air once more, this time more urgent, almost angry. It felt like a turmoil echoing his inner conflict. "What's wrong, Dad? Is it the Millstone place?" Lily's eyes searched his, wanting reassurance but also bracing for the truth. "I just think it's better to be safe, kiddo." There he distanced them from the sight, but the unease gnawed at him. The air felt heavy and the clouds rolled lower, darker. Not far away, children played in backyards, laughter ringing out like a brief reminder of joy. Yet for James it was a stark contrast against the looming dread that had enveloped him as completely as the afternoon shadows. "You know," he said, forcing a casual tone, "maybe we can bake cookies when we get home." Lily's face lit up, her small hand squeezing his. "Can we put sprinkles on them?" "Of course, the more the merrier," he replied, that fatherly pride surging up again, even in the face of doubt. As they made it back to their house, the door creaked open with a familiar groan, a sound that usually felt comforting. Today it sent a shiver down his spine. Closing the door behind them, he noticed how the air tasted strangely stale. "Dad?" Lily asked, peering into the dim living room. "Can we turn on some lights?" "Sure, hold on." He focused on flinging the curtains wide, letting the fading light slip in. But in the distance, past the window, the edges of Millstone still loomed ominously. With every shadow that fell across their cluttered living room, the restless weight in his heart grew heavier. He took a deep breath. "Lily, I want to tell you a story about Millstone, but you have to promise that you'll listen and not be scared, okay?" Reluctantly, Lily nodded, her little brows forming a line of worry as she climbed onto the couch, making space for him alongside her. "It's a place with a lot of ghosts," he began, feeling as though he was peeling back layers of history held deep within him. Not just shadows you see at night, but memories, things that happened in its past. He recounted the tales, how the workers used to toil day and night, how accidents sometimes occurred, the whispers of regret that haunted the factory even now. He spoke gently but honestly, striving to frame the stories not as terrifying fables, but as lessons about courage and facing fears. As he spoke, he could see her grip on the cushion tighten, her expression shifting from fright to fascination. "So, the shadows are the people who worked there?" she asked, and he could see the wheels turning in her innocent mind. "Exactly," he said, relieved that she was finding comfort in understanding. "They're there because their stories need to be told." Suddenly, a loud crash came from the direction of the factory, reverberating through the air. James's heart sank. The time for stories was over. The time to act was upon him. "Stay here, Lily," he said, instinct reflexively taking over. "Dad," she pleaded, but he was already moving toward the door. "Just wait. I'll be right back." Fear pushed him forward, adrenaline pulsing through his veins. He needed to know what was happening. He had to find out if there was a danger lurking in the shadows. Maybe it was time to face the specters of his past, not just for him, but for Lily too. With his heart pounding, he stepped outside, glancing back one last time at her wide eyes framed by the doorway, fear and hope mingling in her gaze. The air in front of him felt electric. What would he find? Would he conquer his fears, or would they consume him? The darkness of Millstone beckoned, and he had to know. James stepped outside, each breath heavy with uncertainty. As he approached the factory, the once comforting sounds of their neighborhood faded away. Only the rustle of leaves clinging on the branches above accompanied him. The sun cast long shadows, dancing playfully, as if mocking the darkness inches away. He knew he shouldn't be here. The factory had its share of accidents and losses. The community whispered its tales of tragedy. Yet the recent crash had rattled him, and the growing concern for Lily ignited a fierce resolve within. What if she needed him? He crept closer, the gravel crunching beneath his feet echoing like an ominous drumbeat in his ears. The vast, decrepit structure of Millstone loomed ahead, its windows like dark, hollow eyes staring back at him. A low rumble, another crash, reverberated through the air, rattling the very bones of the factory. His heart raced. Was there someone in trouble? He approached the side entrance, the old lock hanging limply, as if daring him to push it open. With a slight shove, the door creaked, and he entered. The dim interior swallowed him whole, his surroundings cloaked in dust and decay. Sunlight filtered through gaps in the wooden walls, illuminating the hazy air and casting eerie shapes around him. "Hello?" James called out, his voice feeling small against the expansive silence. Nothing but echoes responded. A faint, greasy smell seeped into his nostrils, reminding him that this place had once thrived. Memories of laughter, toil, and unfulfilled dreams clung to the walls, heavy like forgotten burdens. As he moved further inside, a flicker of movement caught his eye. In the back corner of the factory, near the old conveyor belt, he spotted a figure crouched over something. His stomach dropped, fear gripped him like a vice, but he remembered Lily's voice, the faith she had in him. He couldn't turn away now. James stepped forward, carefully navigating through the remnants of broken machinery and scattered tools. The figure was obscured, but the tension in the air was palpable. "Hey, is someone there?" The figure froze, then turned, revealing a face he knew all too well. His heart lurched. Jason! He hadn't seen his childhood friend in years. Jason looked older, wearier, but the familiar glint of trouble still sparkled in his eyes. "James," he replied, his voice hoarse, "I didn't think anyone would come here. What are you doing?" James felt the urgency in his tone. "I came to look for something. There's something down here that—" "It shouldn't be left alone," Jason explained, glancing over his shoulder nervously. "You shouldn't be here. It's dangerous." James swallowed hard. "What do you mean? Is it about what happened earlier? Is someone hurt?" Jason hesitated, searching for the words. Finally, he took a deep breath, the weight of his secret evident in the lines of his face. "It's not just about an accident. It's worse than you think, James. This place, the shadows here aren't just memories. They're hiding something, and it might be connected to everything." His statement hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The shadows around them seemed to pulse, as if alive and waiting for something to explode. James felt a chill creep down his spine. What was hidden here? What had he brought into the light by stepping through those doors? Lily! The name slipped from his lips. He thought of her innocence, her laughter, her questions about the shadows. "We have to figure this out before it's too late," Jason urged, his voice urgent. But just as James was about to respond, the ground trembled beneath them. A loud rumble echoed from deeper within the factory, shaking the very foundation of their childhood haunt. Fear twisted in his gut. This was far from over. "What does this place hold?" he muttered, realizing that every answer they found could lead them closer to an unsettling truth. And just as uncertainty settled in, another crash, this time from behind the walls that had hidden so many secrets. They exchanged a glance, a silent understanding sinking in. Whatever they were about to face would change everything. But they had to know. Little did James know, the answers lay much deeper within Millstone, a tangle of past and present colliding in a way that none could foresee. Would they unlock the mystery before it swallowed them whole? James's heart raced as he and Jason exchanged anxious glances. The darkness of the factory felt more oppressive now, the air thick with not just dust, but foreboding. Each tremor that reverberated through the walls echoed the uncertainty swirling in James's mind. "What was that?" Jason whispered, his eyes darting around the room as if expecting something or someone to leap out of the shadows. "I don't know," James replied, trying to sound brave, though the tight knot in his stomach betrayed him. "But we have to find out." They stepped deeper into the factory, the ground uneven beneath their feet. The dim light flickered, momentarily casting eerie shapes around them. The conveyor belt creaked as James brushed his hand across it, the metal cold and grimy. Was this where their dreams had once come to life? Now it felt more like a graveyard of hopes long buried. "Do you hear that?" Jason's voice broke through the silence, his expression tense. A faint sound echoed, like muffled cries, distant yet desperate. James's heart sank. "Is someone down there?" "There might be." Jason nodded towards a staircase lost in shadows at the far end of the room. "We have to check it out." With hesitant steps they approached the staircase, the wood groaning under their weight. Each step felt like it could be their last. The muffled cries grew clearer, piercing the stale silence. It sounded like they were coming from just below them. Lily. The name escaped James once again, sharp as a knife. What if Lily was down there? What if she was in danger? "Stay calm," Jason urged, placing a hand on James's shoulder. "We need to stick together." They reached the bottom of the stairs, the blackness growing thicker around them. Jason pulled out his phone, the screen casting a weak light into the abyss. The room smelled of rust and damp earth, a far cry from the childhood memories they'd shared. The cries became frantic, almost pleading. "Lily," James called out, his voice hoarse with worry. "Can you hear me?" Silence fell for a heartbeat before a soft, trembling voice responded. "James? Lily!" Relief and fear surged through him as he raced toward the sound. There, in the corner, huddled between old crates, was Lily, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Oh, thank God you're here!" she cried, rushing into his arms. James knelt, hugging her tightly. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "No," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. "I didn't mean to come here. I was looking for you. I thought you were gone." Jason stood a few steps back, feeling like an intruder in this moment of reunion. "We need to get her out of here now," he said urgently, scanning their surroundings. "Not yet," James insisted, feeling the weight of his promise to Lily pressing on his shoulders. She heard those cries too. What if there's someone else down here? "But we can't stay in this place," Jason warned, casting a nervous glance behind them. "It's not safe." James felt torn. He wanted to protect Lily, to shield her from further fear, but a flicker of something deep inside him urged him to press on. "We haven't uncovered whatever's hiding in these shadows." Jason shook his head, but James was resolute. "I won't let fear rule us. We need to know what's going on." With a single nod, Jason took a step back to assist Lily. "All right, but I'm not losing you both to whatever dark secret lies below." As they ventured further into the shadowy depths of Millstone, The uncertainty grew like a thick fog, clinging to them. What nightmare awaited them in these dark corners? What truth was buried under years of rumors and hidden accidents? Then, out of the gloom, came another sound, a metallic clank, echoing like a distant bell tolling. They paused, breathless. This mystery was far from over, and whatever was hiding in the shadows was about to reveal itself. But was it ready for them? James's breath quickened, not just from fear but from the overwhelming need to protect Lily. He tightened his grip around her shoulders, seeking comfort in her presence, yet it was the metallic clank that anchored his focus. It felt like a ghost calling them deeper into the haunting unknown. "Did you hear that?" Jason whispered, eyebrows knitted together. His voice trembled almost imperceptibly, a reflection of their shared dread. James nodded, the sound replaying in his mind. "We have to find out what it is." "Do we really—" Jason started but quickly silenced himself as another clank echoed, louder and closer this time. It reverberated against the walls, each beat like a warning bell urging them to turn back. Lily clung tighter to James, her small body trembling against his. "I don't want to be here," she whispered, her voice small and vulnerable. James glanced down at her, his heart breaking slightly. "I know, Lily, I know, but we can't leave yet, not until we understand." His resolve hardened. With Jason leading the way, they crept deeper into the darkness. Jason's phone light danced across the walls, flickering shadows that seemed to close in around them. Each step felt heavy, filled with dread and unanswered questions. They passed rusted equipment, relics of a time long gone, now mere echoes of past labor. But the noise, that metallic noise, drew them forward. "There!" Jason pointed, focus sharpening toward a door at the end of the narrow path. Gary's heart pounded like a drum as he and Lily moved closer, instincts telling them something awaited them just beyond the heavy metal frame. "Do you think it could be—" Jason started, glancing back at James. James brushed the thought aside. "It has to be something. Someone might be in trouble." They reached the door, an ancient thing warped and rusted. The cries pressed against the walls. They were louder now, more desperate. With a deep breath, James grasped the cold handle and pushed. The door creaked open slowly, each squeal adding to the tension coiling in his gut. What lay beyond was an expansive room filled with scattered debris and an old broken-down machine. But among the chaos, they saw a figure, a man, hunched and ragged, crying into his hands, his body heaving with despair. "Hey!" James called, stepping fully into the room. "Are you all right? What happened?" The man looked up, wild eyes darting toward them, filled with surprise but also pain. "Help, please." A wave of realization crashed over James. This man was terrified, much like Lily, and he carried an intensity that made James shudder. "What's going on?" Jason pressed, urgency heavy in the air. The man shook his head, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought I could fix it." His voice cracked, deep sorrow etched into his features. "What are you talking about?" Lily's voice trembled, her youthful innocence catching the man's attention. "Everything," he whispered. "I didn't want the accident to happen. It was my fault. The cries, they're all I hear now." He wrung his hands, anguish radiating from him. As James stepped closer, a sudden realization hit. Was this connected to the factory's dark rumors? Unprepared for this revelation, he glanced at Jason, fear battling with the unsettling urge to help. There was still so much to uncover, so many lingering shadows waiting to be faced. "What accident?" James pressed softly, trying to navigate through the man's fragile world. But before the man could respond, the lights overhead flickered, plunging them into darkness. An echoing crash reverberated from the back of the room, sending all three jumping back. "What was that?" Jason yelled, panic creeping into his voice. Lily clung to James, and a shiver ran through him, a real sense of foreboding settling in. Whatever had been looming in the shadows had taken notice of them. Together they stood at the edge of something unfathomable. The darkness felt alive, wrapping around their legs like a vine, tugging them back while their hearts throbbed with a new urgency. What awaited them in the unknown? Was it salvation or some unbearable truth? Pressing on, James locked eyes with Jason, already sensing their next challenge. "We need to find out," he said, moving forward despite the fear threatening to overtake them. With each shaky step, they plunged deeper into a darkness that promised to test them in ways they never imagined. Would they emerge intact? Or was this the end of their friendship? And worse, the beginning of something they couldn't outrun? The air in the room was thick with uncertainty. The flash of Jason's phone light barely penetrated the darkness, casting eerie shapes on the walls that danced like phantoms. James felt the weight of the man's grief pressing down on him, and he instinctively reached for Lily, bringing her closer. "Stay behind me," he murmured, feeling the soft tremor in her small frame against his chest. His own heart raced, echoing her fear. He had to be strong for both of them, even as dread clawed at his gut. "Let's get out of here," Jason insisted, his voice rising with urgency. "We don't know what's in here." James shook his head, the man's despair anchoring him. "We can't just leave him like this." The man lifted his head slightly, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You don't understand," he choked out. "It's not safe, not for any of us." "Why?" James pressed, hoping to jolt something more from the man. What happened here? A low rumble filled the room, and they all turned instinctively toward the sound. The walls trembled as though they were alive, and dust fell from the ceiling like snow. "I tried to fix the machine," the man continued, voice strained. "We were working on something important, something that could help people, but it went wrong. It went horribly wrong." As James processed the man's words, a flicker of hope sparked in his chest. "What if we could help you fix it?" Lily shifted slightly, her curiosity rising above her fear. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, but filled with determination. The man's gaze flickered toward Lily, a flicker of surprise softening his expression. "You're just a child," he said, as if surprised someone so innocent could comprehend the gravity of the situation. "But I want to help," Lily insisted, lifting her chin. "What can we do?" Suddenly the lights flickered back on, revealing a massive machine covered in rust and grime, with wires snaking in every direction. It was a chaotic web, but there was something beautiful about it too, a glimpse of potential amidst despair. "Help me reach the console," the man urged, his voice steadier now, infused with a sliver of hope. "I can show you how to activate it, but we need to be quick. If the wrong connection is made, it could—" His words were cut short by the sound of groaning metal. James's stomach twisted. "What if it explodes?" he blurted out, panic rising as adrenaline coursed through him. The man glanced at him, desperation filling his eyes. "Then we'll have to figure that out together." A solemn agreement washed over them, bonding them in their shared moment of reckoning. Jason, caught between fear and reality, stepped closer, absorbing the gravity of the man's words. "Okay, let's do this." Together, they moved toward the manic maze of controls while the air buzzed with a strange electricity of possibility. James felt a sense of purpose wash over him. He wasn't just protecting Lily anymore. They were all in this together now. "Lily," he said, voice low but firm, "if we go through this, you have to promise to stay close and do exactly what I say." "I promise," she replied, a brave spark igniting in her brown eyes. As they reached the console, the machine hummed to life, sending ripples of energy through the air. James's pulse quickened with each sound, like the drumming of a heart ready to explode. "Now!" the man shouted. "Pull that lever!" But just then, the ground trembled violently beneath them, and an ear-piercing screech erupted from the machine. James's heart dropped as he realized this was no simple fix. They were all in over their heads, teetering on the edge of chaos. Could they survive this ordeal, or had they awakened something darker? With no turning back, James felt the rush of determination wash over him. Whatever came next, they would face it together. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. The screeching noise morphed into a deafening roar, and the hum of the machine transformed into a symphony of chaos. James's instincts kicked in. With trembling hands, he stepped toward the console, his heart pounding in sync with the machine's frantic energy. "Lily, stay right here," he shouted, eyes darting between her and the man who had been their guide so far. The man was already scrambling to open a panel on the machine, revealing a mass of tangled wires. "We need to check the power source," he yelled, reaching deep into the belly of the beast, pulling out a fraying cable. The raw desperation in his eyes told James that time was running out. Jason, still frozen in shock a few steps back, suddenly snapped to life. "What do you want me to do?" His voice quivered, but held a trace of resolve. "Help me with this." The man gestured toward a nearby toolbox cluttered with tools that seemed completely foreign to James. With a quick nod, Jason rushed over, grabbing a pair of pliers. James felt the rush of urgency pulse through him. "Lily, keep your eyes on Jason. Tell him what he needs, okay? You can do this." "I can do it," she replied, standing straighter, her small hands clutching the edge of the console. The man began to remove more wires, sweat beading on his forehead. "If we can just reroute the power, we might have a chance." James took a deep breath, scanning the chaos around him. The walls still shook ominously. "Just tell me what to pull or twist," he shouted, echoing the camaraderie that bound them in that overwhelming moment. "Pull that blue wire," the man commanded. Without hesitation, James reached for it, fingers trembling. He pulled it with all his might, and for an instant the machine paused, as if holding its breath. James's heart leapt. Had that worked? But then a surge of electricity sparked, and the room filled with blinding light. James staggered backward, shielding his eyes. "What's happening?" he yelled, panic bubbling just beneath the surface. Lily's voice cut through the chaos. "The lights, they're changing!" He turned to see the giant screen on the machine flicker, lighting up with bizarre symbols and numbers. Something was awakening within the dark machine, something colossal and powerful. "Focus," Jason urged, his voice rising above the clatter. "What next?" "Red wire. Cut the red wire," the man choked out, desperation piercing his words. Time slowed as James reached for it. Just as he was about to sever it, an echoing voice boomed through the room, deep and resonant. "Intruders, you will pay." A cold shiver cascaded down James's spine as he froze, realizing they weren't alone. Shadows twisted around them, enveloping the room, and something darker began to emerge, drawn from the machine's core. "What do we do?" he shouted, fighting the rising dread inside him. "Finish the job," the man shouted back, determination renewed. With a final burst of will, James cut the red wire, lunging back as the room erupted with an explosion of color and sound. A wave of energy rushed through them, almost like a lifeline, spreading warmth. Yet the dark voice still lingered, echoing down the halls of his mind. "Now we have to activate the core," the man cried, and the flickering symbols on the screen intensified. But as they prepared to pull another lever, James could feel that lingering presence, more tangible now, like a shadow cast by something monstrous. Would they unleash a force they couldn't control? Just then, the shadows in the corners of the room began to form into shapes, and with a sinking feeling, James realized they had awoken something far worse than they could have imagined. A new fear washed over him. What were they really dealing with? As the tension hung thick in the air, he faced a crucial choice. Would they take the leap into the unknown or run from the darkness they might have awakened? The next moment could change everything. James felt the urgency thrum through every fiber of his being. All the darkness they had come face to face with in this wretched factory was now coalescing into something menacing. Shadows danced in desperate movements, drawing closer like a pack of wolves. "Focus on the core," the man shouted, breaking the spell of fear. "We need to finish this. It's the only way." But as James prepared to push another lever, the menacing voice boomed again, sending a ripple of cold dread through him. "You don't know what you've unleashed." With Lily's small hand clutching his tightly, he took a deep breath. "We can do this," he said, pouring his heart into the words, seeking to inspire confidence in both her and Jason. Lily nodded, eyes wide yet filled with resolve. "We need to help him." "Right," Jason added, stepping closer. "Let's activate whatever we can." With newfound determination, they turned their attention back to the console. "Pull that lever now," the man urged, his voice a blend of anxiety and hope. James seized the lever, the cold metal clammy under his grip. "On 3, 1, 2, 3. He thrust it down with all his might. The machine roared to life, a potent surge rushing forward. Bright light burst forth, illuminating the cavernous room. The shadows recoiled, writhing in protest, unable to withstand the power fueling the core. The man's frantic whispers fused with the chaos. Keep going, keep it steady. With the lights flickering, enigmatic symbols flashed among them. Numbers, letters, and shapes buzzing with energy. The raw potential of the machine overflowed, and a path began to reveal itself, a way to harness what had been hidden in darkness. "Stay together," James yelled, glancing back at Lily and Jason. Their faces were painted with a mix of fear and hope. This was no longer just a quest for survival. This was transformative. "What's happening?" Lily asked, her voice trembling but brave. "I think we're turning it into something good," James said, pushing through the uncertainty. The machine began to respond. Wires crackled, unleashing energy that surged like a river breaking free from a dam. Shadows bellowed an unholy sound, a storm twisting throughout the factory. Gritting his teeth, James pushed forward, focused on one simple truth: whatever lay ahead, they would face together. Suddenly, the man pulled out an emergency shut-off switch, panic etched in his features. "We can't hold this energy for long. We need to redirect it, now." James felt panic set in, but beneath it all, he found clarity. "Jason, help him. Lily, you stay with me." He took a steadying breath. "We can do this, sweetheart. Just keep your eyes on me." With the machinery thrumming and lights strobing, James steadied his breathing. The very core of Millstone felt alive, seething with history and untold stories, and maybe, just maybe, redemption was a heartbeat away. They all moved in sync, hands grasping wires, pushing levers, working together as others had never before. The shadows began to retreat, snarling in frustration. Light poured through cracks in the constraints of darkness, suffusing the space with warmth and power. As they worked, the echoes of the past, lost dreams and forgotten people, swirled around them, filling the air with the promise of hope. They were rewriting the story of Millstone, together, against all odds. Then, the man's voice rose in excitement. "We're almost there. Just a little more." With a final push, the machine erupted in a blinding flash. Every ounce of darkness ignited into brilliant shards of light. It was as if they were birthing something new, erasing the darkness that had clung to this place for too long. "Lily," James shouted, holding onto her as the room swelled with electric energy. "Hold on." In that moment, everything came together. The machine hummed a soothing melody that washed over them. The cries transformed into breathless moments of relief. They had done it. They turned darkness into light. As the energy dissipated, the shadows faded entirely, revealing the bare bones of the old factory beneath. No longer haunted, it felt alive. What had once screamed of despair now whispered of possibility. "I think it's over," Jason gasped, breathing heavily. James turned to Lily, whose face radiated with joy and wonder. "Did we really do it?" she asked, eyes sparkling with life. "We did," he replied, kneeling to her height, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "We faced the darkness together." And with Jason by their side, they knew they had created a bond that surpassed all the fears, all the regrets. Bonded by facing the past, they emerged into the light, their hearts full. Millstone no longer lingered as a specter of shadows, but stood proud, a testament to resilience and redemption, to a father finding his way back into his daughter's life. As they walked out, light pouring in through newly unshuttered windows, James finally felt whole again. He looked at Lily, tears of joy gleaming in his eyes. This was home, underlining the importance of this transformation, of love reclaimed. James knew he had forged something that would never fade. And now it was time for you, sweet readers. You'll want to subscribe immediately to our channel, so you don't miss any of the upcoming exclusive stories that will inspire and resonate with your hearts. Like right now to feed the algorithm and let us know you're with us on this journey. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Share what it meant to you, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and be part of our growing family. Your support matters, and only true fans understand the impact of these actions. So let's keep the light shining together.